All right, so I just got a pair of these in, and I actually have to say, I think that we're wrong about these. So, oddly enough, it's one of those situations where shoes come out and people hate them. They hate the images, they hate the idea of the shoe. I don't know. Maybe they don't like the signature athlete. But this is one of those shoes that we saw images on, and we're like, nah, I'm not messing with those. There's other things on the market, right? But then I was like, I got to get a pair in hand and see how they are. And now that I have a pair of the book ones, I feel like I should say that I think that we were wrong, or at least I was wrong about my initial thoughts about the book one. Drake introduced the shoe. I think he unveiled the shoe like in a concert in Phoenix. That went pretty good. But then it was like, when are they going to release? And then there was just an AZ colorway that was just like super, super, super limited. Book has 6 or 7 different versions of his shoe that he's worn on the court. We've never seen them yet. So I think that like consumers were like a little bit like confused of like, we can't even have the shoes yet. You're showing us all these things. And then other people were just like, well, I don't even care about them anyway. So it's kind of interesting how harsh everything has been with the ride along with these shoes. Part of the reason why I hold my like opinions about sneakers back until I actually get the shoes in hand is for exactly this reason, because from images, it just wasn't that attractive of a looking shoe to me. It didn't look like a basketball shoe. I mean, we've seen it all. It looks like a skate shoe. It's very casual looking. It's not like anything that a professional athlete and a basketball player should be performing in. But then you get them in hand and you're like, dude, I get it. Like, so I'll go over some of the details on what I like about the shoes, some of the things maybe I don't like, and hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Hopefully it's somewhat informative. And if you guys are interested in buying a pair of book ones, I'll try to link them in the description. As of the point of this video, I think that most of the sizes actually sold out again. They did restock, and I always post them when they're updated over on Twitter and whatnot. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. But anyway, let's get into some of these details though straight out of the box. It's not something that we're used to seeing where it's like a casual pair of sneakers that is also a crossover to the performance basketball side of things, which is hilarious kind of. It's been something that we try to dabble with on the casual side of things, like a performance basketball shoe. Can we casual it or not? Is it something you can get away with or not? And so if it's too simple, then people make fun of it and call it too simple. But if it's too technical, then they won't wear it casually. So that's where I feel like as people actually start getting these in hand on feet, they're going to go, okay, I get it now. Like, these are actually pretty legit. They're comfortable for like just regular wear, as well as obviously these could be a performance pair of basketball shoes. I do want to throw out there though, like, people balled out in Chuck Taylors back in the day. So like realistically, you don't need a lot of craziness on feet to really have a performance basketball shoe. I played in running shoes a lot of the time at the gym, or just when I was out in the blacktop. And there was also an NBA player that played in like the tuned Air Max as well. So it is what it is. That being said, I think that some of the shoes that are released just specifically for basketball may be just too technical and don't need to be as advanced as they are. Maybe this is a step in the right direction of bridging the casual and the performance side of things. At first glance, you look at the shoe and you go, yeah, it looks casual. But then the sticky traction and the outsole in here, I'm like, dude, this is like legit. When I put these on just downstairs, I'm like, you can just jab step in them pretty quick, and the traction does its job. I do think that the midfoot right here is just a little bit too narrow for my personal preference. I personally think this should be widened out just a little bit, at least for my feet, because this is just a super small, narrow amount of traction. But the midsole is Cushlon 2.0, not 3.0. It's comfortable though. It's like something that you notice on feet. It's not super soft and squishy. Obviously, you don't want that for a basketball player. You want it to be somewhat firm and bouncy and spring back. And I feel like the Cushlon 2.0 does a nice job with that. Then you go to the upper though. That's kind of where this thing shines. Honestly, from images, again, it just is like, it looks plain. It looks like kind of like a Nike Blazer, Nike Dunk, Air Force One. But that was actually pretty intentional. It sounds like Book really wanted a shoe that was very much a crossover shoe to lifestyle, and something simplistic, maybe something that had a little bit of heritage look to it, especially since it's the first version. He wanted to like sort of give a nod to like the originals, like the Air Force One and whatnot, the very first versions of those. So hearing that, you look and you go, okay, I could see kind of what they did there, because the panels for the laces as well as around the mudguard and the toe box, that kind of reminds me somewhat of like a Nike Dunk Air Force One sort of era. But then you get back to the mid panel of the shoe and you're like, okay, this is kind of a cool different material that they used. And then you have a leather swoosh that also has an embroidery around it. So it adds a nice, like, more complicated layer to the shoe. And then you look at the heel counter and then they tuck it inward instead of having it sewn on the outside. So I'm like, okay, it feels more elevated, or just elevated from a standard pair of basketball shoes. Now they retail at $140 for those people wondering. And also the sizing, Personally, for me, I would go true to size. That's what fit me just right. Some people might have a difference in opinion. Of course, leave a comment in the comment section, but true to size is what I went with and I'm happy with. And then also the leather nubuck panels of the shoe, it actually feels really nice as well. You have a little bit of a contrast to the shoe in color, but also some perforation holes around the collar up top. But then it also has a pull tab on the back, and I was kind of confused about it at first because there's like 4 different layers of loops inside of there, but it looks like a book. Maybe that's the intent. But I like it. It looks kind of cool, and it maybe not be a functional like addition, but maybe it just adds to the storytelling of the shoe. On the tongue, it does say book with a Nike swoosh, and then it does have some initials. I believe this is for his family on the back of the shoe, and possibly his family individually wrote their initials back there, but I'm not 100% sure. You do have a nice plush liner for the tongue as well as the collar of the shoe as well, which is something that I think is kind of welcome, and I think that's part of the reason why people thought this could be a skate shoe because of how well padded this collar is in the tongue. You also have a nice soft material on the outside of the tongue as well. But the color blocking, I think, is what throws a lot of people off because it's all a singular color. As I mentioned, the midsole is Cushline 2.0, and then the rubber outsole actually comes up through the toe section of the shoe, as well as just it's raised in certain areas where there's probably higher traffic. You have obviously a giant Nike swoosh on both sides of the shoe, as well as a small one right here in the front, and no Nike swooshes on the outsole of the shoe that I could see, but it does say Air Zoom. Now I looked in the box and I didn't see any tech specs about the shoe. That's one thing personally I think that they should have included, considering it's the very first version. I like to have a tangible piece of paper, something that says this is the book 1. It's Zoom Air, it's top loaded, bottom loaded, or whatever it is in the midsole. For somebody like myself that's wearing it for casual, I don't necessarily care if it's top loaded or bottom loaded, but other people might. And for those wanting, the Air Zoom is actually in the heel of the shoe, and it is top loaded. I do like that the name Air Zoom right at the bottom of the shoe is actually, I think, very close to where the actual zoom unit is in the midsole of the shoe. Also, it does say 96 on the pull tab, and it does say chapter 1 on the back of the shoe as well. So now that you guys have had a look at the book 1s, what do you guys think? Is it something that is better than you expected, like myself? Is it something you guys are passing on? Or are you interested in seeing more and finding out more as the colorways are going to be introduced? Personally, I want to see other colorways because honestly, the monotone colorways are okay, but I want to see just more variation with all of the different panels because there's so many different layers on the upper of the shoe that they could really play with this and make it a fun, different type of sneaker. Also, the fact that they're doing like a cut and sew upper on this model, it really opens the door quite a bit for all sorts of different types of materials that could be overlaid and underlaid on the shoe instead of the ones that we have on this specific model, which is exciting. I mean, you could really, sky's kind of the limit where you can go with this type of a build. It's very retro-esque, and because of that and the quality of the materials in hand, I'm kind of digging it quite a bit. Now, are there going to be hurdles for future releases of the shoe? Possibly, because look at the market. It's a very, very tough market right now. The AE1s are going kind of crazy from the Adidas front, and those ones are $120. These are $140. And the AE1 from Adidas has a lot of positive energy behind it right now. This has had some negative energy from the beginning. I'm one of those people from the beginning where I was like, hey, it's not really something for me, but it is. It's a crossover casual lifestyle shoe in hand and on feet. I think they actually look really good. I do think that they need new colorways to make it just that much better. And then once we start seeing them more and more on people's feet, we'll get used to the style. And just the fact that there is a crossover there to the lifestyle, I think it's kind of a cool, different move and not one that I expected from D-Book. But I'm happy to see it. And honestly, these things, again, better than expected. Some of the things I would change about them, as I already mentioned, the colorways, I think need better colorways. The width of the bottom of the shoe, especially in the midfoot here, I wish that was just a little bit wider. For myself, I have a little bit of a wider foot, so I would like to see that. Other than that, though, this is just going to be one of those shoes that I think gradually over time, people are going to get them in hand or see them on feet, finally tangible objects in person, and they're going to go, whoa, I was wrong about that. You leave a comment in the comment section if you were one of those turncoats like myself, because I'm not afraid to admit it. Sometimes you see images of shoes and it's very off-putting, and then sometimes you get them in hand and you're like, this is legit. It's like much better than I expected. And that's what I've been feeling about these, man. They're not available as of right now, but I will link them in the description when you guys can go over to Nike or Foot Locker, pick up your own pairs. Also, check me out on Twitter if you guys don't already. That's the easiest place to have conversations with me. I reply back to a lot of people over there, more so than YouTube comments and everywhere else, just because it's easier and I always have that open. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for stopping by and watching. Have a good rest of the day, and yeah, peace, guys.